Welcome back. It's great to see you on video 3 of our series on 7 myths about women entrepreneurs that even smart people still believe. Today, we're going to talk about probably one of the most interesting myths to bust. But that might be just me, but I think this one's quite fun to tackle. So let's get right into it. Unveil which myths it is and what we're going to do about it. So, myth 2. Women are too risk averse. If you've seen the first video, you'll see that I really take almost offense to the word too there. But honestly, the question is, what purpose does the too serve? What is too risk averse? And in the context of the stories we tell ourselves, when we say someone is too risk averse, what are we actually saying? When you're saying someone is too something, the subtext there is, if they're too much of this, then they're not enough of something else. If they're too risk averse, then they can't do something. And given that there's a general, another type of myth, which we're going to tackle in a minute as well, more broadly about entrepreneurship, that entrepreneurs are risk-taking, risk-loving, and, have a very intimate relationship with risk. If we say that women are too risk averse, it goes unsaid but understood that therefore women can't be good entrepreneurs. You're too risk averse, therefore you can't possibly be good entrepreneurs. So let's have a look at risks more broadly and try and understand what too risk averse might actually mean. Now, the world we know is facing complex challenges. You may or may not agree that these challenges are either more acute or more complex than they've been before, but that doesn't actually matter. The reality of it, which I think we can all agree on, is the world faces complex issues. You only have to switch on the TV to get a taste of what we're living through at the moment. Now, if the world is having all these challenges, now these are all creating inherent risks. And as an entrepreneur needs to navigate this environment, this is their reality, they're navigating risks at 2 levels. One are the risks, these external risks that are being thrown at us from a complex world, but also the risks that they have to take to bring solutions to these complex challenges in the world, to the world. So you've got these 2 levels of risks. Now, at a global level, I'm going to say something slightly provocative here, but A, bear with me, and B, really think about this. Let's take, for example, the 2008 financial crisis. Who was responsible for that? And what was their relationship with risk? I think it's quite safe to say that the 2008 financial crisis happened as a result of hyper risk-taking activities that some may say was testosterone fueled. And it brought the whole world down. It happened in certain parts of the financial system, but it showed us how connected the world was. So in a world where the risks are there, the complexities are there, do we really want people who are pushing the risk envelope? But you're going to say to me, well, Shima, being hyper risky is not having managed risks or having a more normal relationship with risk. And what happened in the financial sector is not really what happens in ecosystems and entrepreneurs. Okay, I'll give you that. I'm delineating a boundary that risky behavior is not helpful and in certain cases can bring our entire economic systems crashing down around us. So let's bring our discussion on risk a little bit closer to home, both to entrepreneurs and to women. And I think this is where it gets fun. So, colleagues of mine at the University of Cambridge did some interesting research a few years ago. And they went into it wondering whether the brains of entrepreneurs were different to the brains of your average human. But they quickly realized that before they really went into MRI scanning and studying the brain and all the really clever things that you can imagine happens at the University of Cambridge, maybe they should look a little bit at more standard testing and get some baseline measurements on different factors, shall we say, that there were more global citizen data for. So they created an experiment that brought together 50 successful businesses and 50 successful entrepreneurs. And success was measured by peers, whether they were viewed as successful by peers. Otherwise, going down the route of measuring success and successful is another minefield. So they did really a very wise thing and went, we're going to take these 50 people as recognized by their peers. Do note that this is an experiment that was done with 50 and 50 men. So the women aren't in the picture yet. But they tested them on some standard testing. And lo and behold, the entrepreneurs were scoring consistently the same as addicts, convicts, and gamblers. Now, the first time I heard about the outcome of this research, and at the time it was my boss who was one of the team members, so I got kind of early eyes and ears on these results, I was more than a little horrified. I had spent by that point 10 or so years teaching entrepreneurship, maybe coming up to 15. And I said to my boss, so what are we doing? Is that what we're actually teaching our students? We're trying to teach everyone to be more like addicts, convicts, and gamblers. I'm not sure I really, wanted to dedicate my life's work to that. Call me crazy. Anyway, so before I went down a spiral there, wondering and having that existential crisis, I'm wondering, what are we doing? He said to me, no, wait, there was a difference. Can you guess what that difference was? The difference was the ability to stop. All these other more dysfunctional personalities just wanted more and more and thought they would get more and more. It was one more gamble, one more risk, one more step. And they always thought that if they did a little bit more, then they could win. And the thrill of they could win was always there. But in some ways, the adrenaline and the risk and everything was intermeshed. It was in the being, in the risky activity themselves that they got the kick. And if you follow discussions, videos, or read the book about dopamine, I believe it's Dopamine Nation, there's more on what goes on with these dysfunctional personalities in and around gambling and risk-taking behavior. Now, entrepreneurs do not do that. Their attitude to risk was far more evaluated, measured, mitigated. So this notion that entrepreneurs are risk takers comes from an outside view that they look like gamblers, addicts, and convicts. Those ones are risk takers. They literally get kicks out of taking the risk. Entrepreneurs do not. They perceive, they understand that risk is a price to pay for the activity that they are performing, for the value that they're creating, for the innovation and the product and good that they're bringing in the world. So for them, it's almost a necessary evil. And so they become very focused on mitigating risk. And the good people of effectuation.org have, with 20 years of research, have developed principles around entrepreneurship. And the one I want to share with you now is the notion of affordable loss, which describes exactly the relationship between entrepreneurs and risk. This is where an entrepreneur decides at the onset what their affordable loss is. So this is where you can start forgetting everything you see on the media about these entrepreneurs that put their house back on a mortgage, they lose their spouses, they lose their children, they lose everything because it is of commitment and love of what they're doing. You know, the principle of affordable loss, which was, by the way, developed looking at successful entrepreneurs, that says, no, actually, if you're going to be good at this, you decide what you can afford to lose. And then you go all out. You experiment, you try, you throw everything you've got at it from you. Not suggesting you throw your money around stupidly, but you're really all in because you know that either you're going to make it, or if you don't make it, then you're going to stop. Because that is within the boundaries of what you can afford to lose, and you're not going to step over that boundaries. And the research from my colleagues at Cambridge showed that these successful, good entrepreneurs were brutal in their ability to stop. If it wasn't working, they stopped. It wasn't one more try, one more risk, one more bit of resources thrown at it. Now, actually, looking at affordable loss and the relationship between entrepreneur and risk, it actually marries much more closely to the relationship between women and risk. So when the myth talks about too risk averse, there isn't a two in this equation. Entrepreneurs' relationship to risk is measured. It is about evaluating it and mitigating it. They're not in there wanting to take it. And so we find, data from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, the GEM, shows us that over the course of 5 years, which is a measure of the longevity and likelihood of long-term existence of a business. So how many businesses exist after 5 years? We find that actually women-led businesses survive better up to and post the 5-year mark. So now, if you want to invest, you want to buy a service. So who would you want to invest in? An entrepreneur or an individual? Because I'm going to hesitate to call that person an entrepreneur. Someone who's very risk-taking is more likely to crash things. Whereas those that use assets, capital, infrastructure wisely deliver results and are still around 5 years later. So who would you invest in? Who would you support? And would you then still say that women are too risk averse? So we must shatter the myths around women if we're going to be able to see women for the value that they create, to have access to their services, to their products, and the value that they create within the ecosystem, but also more globally. So shattering the myths becomes a fairly fundamental mission to creating ecosystems that deliver the outcomes they aspire to, that deliver the value to the world that the world needs. So for those of you who've been with me from previous videos, this will now start to become familiar. I invite you to fix the system, not the women. Step away from trying to design yet another training program or sending your women on another training program to build their confidence, to pitch better, to, I don't know, find a nirvana or some sort of magic potion to transform them into some imaginary, stereotypical ideal that, again, I wonder where the metrics come from. So looking at actually how are opportunities shared, made visible, where's the money going to, who goes to which event, who's made visible, who's got connections, who's sponsored, who can pick up the phone and actually call a gatekeeper to ask for help, ask for information. Asymmetry of information is another deadly factor in misallocating resources. So how do we fix the system so that opportunities are there, they can be made use of, and we're not actually using our time and our resources fixing women that don't need fixing? So this was the second myth. Did that resonate? Is that something you're working on? Is that something you feel you'd like to challenge? What other myths might you be working on? Did you see the first video? If you already had a sneak peek on all 7 of the myths, which ones resonate more with you? As always, what else do you need? Do you still have questions on your mind? We are Canbast, and we work on these issues day in, day out. And if we can help you in any way, let us know. See you in the next video. Don't forget to click to see myth number 3, or click back to see the earlier videos in this series.